Hey, you're listening to the Intentional Mind podcast, and I'm your host, Ange Barnard. This is a bonus episode. So what that means is this is an episode that I release during the week, not on my typical schedule. So normally on the show, we release an episode every Thursday, unless something crazy happens and I can't show up on Thursday. But for the most part, you can expect a new episode every Thursday. Well, this one, you're getting 2 episodes this week because this is the bonus episode where I create an episode when I feel really called to, and I don't want to wait till the next week rolls around. Like, I feel like you need to know this information now. This is that kind of episode. So the wisdom from this episode comes from my recent hike on the Appalachian Trail. So I've talked about this on the show before, where one of my husband's big dreams was to hike the Appalachian Trail. So through hike the Appalachian Trail, starting in Georgia and ending in Maine. So often this takes people about 6 months on average. And that's if you don't get hurt and all the things, you don't take too much time off. It takes about 6 months. So a lot of people will make big plans to make this happen, to be away from work and all the things, right, from their family. Well, my husband has made all of those plans. Initially, I was supposed to do the whole entire thing with him. That was my intent. And then as I started to do some more evaluation around my vision and what I wanted for my life, I was like, I think I only want to do some of it while I still work on my other things that I'm really passionate about. And I'm the kind of person that feels like I can design my life any way I want. I don't have to buy into this mindset of this all or nothing approach in life. So what I decided was that I was going to mix it up, do the jump on and off the trail with him, and then still work on all my other things that I love and I'm excited to work on. So here I am doing that. So I spent the last week hiking with him, and we did the entire Georgia section of the trail. So the trail goes to, I think it's through 14 states. And Georgia is a very challenging state to hike. A lot of people underestimate it because they think that it's the beginning of the trail for a lot of people, unless you're doing the opposite. Sometimes people hike from Maine to Georgia, and most go from Georgia to Maine. So anyways, Georgia is a very hilly, mountainous state, that portion of the trail. So there's a lot of elevation change, and man, it's tough. Like, you burn your legs, and then you're carrying this pack that weighs like 30-ish something pounds. And yeah, it's challenging. And the hiking, if you're familiar with long distance hiking, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, just humor me and listen to this, because I still feel like there's so much more metaphors in life like that you can get, wisdom that you can gain from hiking, that you're going to be getting from me being on the trail. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so anyways, when you're hiking these long distances, it's not just the long distance that makes it hard. It's the environment, the terrain, like you being out there when it's cold and wet. And like, I hate the weather that sucks the worst, which I was just in, is when it's just above freezing, but it's pouring down rain. So it's like this cold rain, and you're so cold and everything is wet, and you're just like trying to set your tent up and it's pouring rain, and you're waking up in the morning to rain, like, and it's just, you're cold and wet, and you're just like, I want to be warm. I want something like dry to have on. And a big thing with the Appalachian Trail is you're often wet. It's just kind of part of like the terrain. So anyways, we also experience snow and really freezing conditions with the snow, clearly, where you got to think about water, because not only are you trying to find your water and you're filtering it, if it's frozen, like when it goes in your cup or your bottle, it sucks. Like, it's hard to drink that frozen water. And then you don't want to stand somewhere long enough to heat up the water because you're like freezing, like you're feeling like your hands are getting frostbitten and your face is like, that was what we were experiencing. So there's like a winter weather advisory at one point, and we were heading towards a wilderness area. And what that means is like, you go for a long period of time where there isn't any access to roads or, outside resources. You're just out there. And usually in these areas, there's no service. And even if you had service, no one can come save you unless there's like a helicopter or something, right? Because there's no road access. So we were about to go through this area, and we got the alerts that said, winter weather advisory. So a lot of people were jumping off the trail because it was going to snow and just be really, really cold. And at this point, we didn't really have that option because we weren't near roads. So we're like, we're going to hunker down. We're just going to make this work. So we did. And it was crazy because we woke up and there was like tons of snow. The wind was blowing fiercely. And like you could hear like this trees, literally limbs snapping and trees falling around our tent. So Ian, my husband, jumps up and he was worried that something might have happened to his dad because his dad started with us too. So he was sleeping in a tent close to us. And he like runs out of his tent. He's like, Dad, are you okay? And his dad was like, yeah, I'm fine. Because the tree like fell over by him. And he's like, we need to get out of here now. So we were like packing up everything as quickly as we could. And our poles were frozen. So like you have to fold them, right? Like the poles that hold the tent up. So Ian was putting his mouth over the areas to unthaw it so we could bend it and fold it up. And it was just like, if you kept your hands out of your mittens, that I'm so grateful that my gloves and all of that were not wet, because I got the opportunity to jump off the trail a little bit earlier. And we stayed at this hostel place because that was one of the days it was pouring rain. And we got to dry out our clothes. And I was so grateful for that, because had I been that night on the trails wet as well, all my stuff would have been wet. And putting wet clothes on with snow is like, you're at a really high risk for hypothermia. So anyways, there's just a lot of factors to consider. Like one dude behind us had hurt his knee and he was struggling to like hike out of the area, and he was still probably like 13 miles from, a road. And mind you, like his knee is messed up and he can barely walk and he's trying to carry his stuff. And it's like hard conditions sometimes. And then people are like, why are you doing this then? Right. And the thing I want to say is there's something, guys, about going away from like modern day luxuries, like going out in the woods and being in nature, that just makes you feel alive. It just reminds you like you're alive. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I know people get me, like if you've been out in nature in that way. And I also think there's just something about making yourself proud that it just feels so good to do stuff that is hard. And then later be like, I did that. I'm so proud of you. Like talking to yourself, like you did this. I'm always talking to myself. When I was hiking some of the hills, was so challenging and I was just so tired. And I'm like, you can do this, Ange. You can do this. And Ian's like, what? What are you saying? And I was like, just stop. I'm talking to myself right now. I'm motivating myself. And he's like, are you okay? Are you hurting? I'm like, no, I just need to keep staying motivated because I'm tired. So I'm like telling myself, you can do this, Ange. Come on, just a little bit more. You're almost there. And anyways, after I got off the mountain, so we got off this mountain, blizzarding, just crazy, like you're so cold. And we came down the mountain and so that morning we didn't even have breakfast or anything. And we had like 11 miles, I think, to hike out. And it was not an easy 11 miles. Like this was pretty big climbs up. And then you're like nervous when you're coming down because the rocks are all icy and just you got gravity working against you because you're carrying this weight and just all the things. So anyways, we make it down the mountain and I'm so relieved because we cross an area where there's a parking lot. And right at the bottom of the mountain was trail magic. So that's what I'm talking about in this episode. Magic, creating magic in your life. So what the heck is trail magic? What trail magic is on the Appalachian Trail? It's considered basically, it's a term that long distance hikers have created, and it's used to describe an unexpected occurrence that lifts a hiker's spirits and inspires awe or gratitude. It may be simple as being offered a candy bar by someone passing you, or spotting like certain kinds of animals, or like someone having a feast waiting for you, like it can be even just a small thing. Well, trail magic, an unexpected occurrence that lifts your spirit, inspires awe or gratitude. So I was thinking about trail magic because I experienced it twice on the trail in 1 week, which was kind of interesting because in both times it was with a group of people at the bottom of, like, when you got down a mountain and there was a parking lot that you'd cross to the next hike up. There was two groups of people that were there waiting for hikers with a bunch of food and hot drinks and just loving on these long distance hikers. And it just lifted their spirits, especially when you're cold and you're wet and you're tired and you see someone that's offering you a hot drink or some warm food, you're like, oh, heaven, So that was trail magic. And it felt so good to receive that. And that got me thinking about in our life, like, can we be the people that create magic for other people? Because I was reading my kombucha bottle, the GT's kombucha bottles, the glass bottles. Well, that brand, they always have quotes on them. And one of the quotes yesterday in my bottle said, put out the energy you want to attract. And you knew I loved that. Put out the energy you want to attract. And that got me thinking is if you want more magic in your life, then you create magic for others. So trail magic, you create this unexpected occurrence that lifts someone's spirit. You want more of that in your life? You want more surprises in your life that lift your spirit and have you thinking, this is so awesome and you're so grateful for it? Then you be the one that gives that to others, right? Because you're putting out that kind of energy and it comes back to you. So I was thinking about how these trail angels, that's what they call them, that are giving you this food and all that. Like, it got me thinking about how I wanted to be that, like, for other people. Like, how could I be a trail angel for other people? And how... So anyways, like, I thought about, like, even just, like, sending someone, like, a little card, or let's say someone at work is having a hard day, or maybe they're not even having a hard day, and you write a little note and you stick it by their keyboard, and they walk by and they sit down and they see it, and they're like, oh, that was sweet, and it, like, lifted their spirit. It was unexpected. And these can be just, like, tiny little things. Like, the other day I had sent some postcards to friends, and they really enjoyed that. They received this postcard that had, like, an inside joke related to it or something. And it lifted their spirit. And I just want to be that person that does more things like that. When I was gone for work recently, my husband was working, and I had DoorDash delivered for him 3 times during the week. And he wasn't expecting that at all, but it would just show up, and it lifted his spirit. And I don't know if, like... I feel like it was interesting because on the trail, the times that these trail angels were there, they said that one group said, yeah, we only come out once a year. And it's at this specific time, at this specific location. And you just so happened to be here when we came out. And I was like, what a blessing. Thanks, God. I see, like, the God wink. And the other one said they only came on Tuesdays and Thursdays at that specific time. So you have to cross, like, be crossing at the right time. So, okay. The other thing I wanted to say, what was interesting was, so I was on top of the mountain and it was freezing and we didn't heat. I love heating my water in the morning and making myself coffee on the trail. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Well, we didn't get to do that because we had to run out very quickly because the trees were falling. So I was like, as we were walking, I was just dreaming. I was like, oh, it'd be so cool. Wouldn't it be so cool if we could have coffee? Like, if there was coffee for us, or I could just have a cup right now. And I'd want almond milk because I love almond milk in my coffee. And I was like, but how would that even happen? My mind was like, yeah, what? Someone's going to be waiting for you in, like, the woods, blizzarding conditions with almond milk. And most of the time, if someone does give you coffee, they don't have almond milk with them. It's just, like, another kind of creamer or something. So, you know how your rational mind is like, nah, that is never going to happen for you, whatever. So that was happening in my mind. I'm like, I'm just dreaming about it. So I get down at the bottom of the hill, and not only do they have eggs, bacon, hash browns, like the full breakfast food, and beer, and what else do they have? Fruit and chocolate and chips and bananas. Hikers love bananas, but all this kinds of fruit. You have all this amazing stuff there. They also had coffee and almond milk. Like, what? So I felt like it was God telling me, like, Ange, all things are possible. Like, even the biggest things, the littlest things, whatever it is, if you can dream it, it is possible. And it was just another reminder I felt like I needed to hear. And I wanted to share that story with you because I want you to hear that. Like, your mind, when you start to dream of something that you want and you desire, your mind will be like, no, that couldn't happen. You'll see that other, like, voice showing up. And I just really believe if you can envision it, then it's possible. And in some way, some would say it's already here. You just have to line up to it energetically. And that might sound weird to people, but I've started really buying into that belief more. And it feels good to believe that. Like, I always think about how everything I desire is out there. That kind of reminds me of like before I met my husband. I remember people telling me like, the guy that you desire to be with, that is a really good match for you, he's out there right now, Ange. He's living his life right now. Pray for him, like, and I did that before I met my husband. And then we, like, at the right timing, like, we linked up. So another interesting thing was the first experience of trail magic with the other trail angels. We were hiking, of course, and we're coming again down a hill. And we get down to the bottom. We see this big group of people, and there they have all the snacks. And just before we came down there, we were talking about Little Debbie snacks. You remember those? And I was like, oh, I like the like nutty butter, whatever they are, the chocolate peanut butter ones. I was like, I like those. And, we were just talking about the different Debbie snacks we like, and oatmeal cream pies and blah, blah, blah. And so we were just like, I was just talking about that. And then I also was envisioning in my mind popcorners, those chips, popcorners. And I was listening to a podcast. It was Ed Milet's show, and he always advertises popcorners in his show. And I was like, that would be so cool to get some while I'm on the trail. Wouldn't it be cool if I could? But like, who shows up with popcorners? Like, even if someone gives me chips or I just happen to go to a store, it's highly unlikely I'm going to see popcorners. Like, usually, you might see them at bigger grocery stores, but like little places that you're crossing, probably not going to have popcorners there. So my mind was doing that again. But I was just like, what would it feel like if I had popcorners? Oh, I'd get the kettle corn ones. And I was just like envisioning, right? You have a lot to think about when you're hiking. You're just there with your mind. So anyways, I come down the trail, and guess what's there? A whole box of popcorners and all the Debbie snacks. And I'm like, what? And he even made us a grilled cheese and like green tea. And I was also thinking about green tea earlier. And it just reminded me again that like how powerful your mind is. And to some, they may be like, oh, just a coincidence, and like, what are you even talking about? But I see this all the time in my life. And I really believe it's God winking at me like, hey, like, like, you're very powerful and you've been given that power. If you are someone who believes in the Bible and what's in it, there's a lot that talks about like the power that you've been given. And some people want to like disregard that. I don't know. But I feel like in my life, I see that we are very powerful creators. And this is why I spread the message of you can intentionally design your life. And a lot of us act like things aren't possible for us. And I can't handle it. It frustrates me so much. Like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, guys, because, like, one thing I love about my husband is that, like, he will work hard to design the life that he wants. Like, if he has to have uncomfortable conversations, like, for example, when he just got this new job opportunity, like, most people would say that you're like, why are you looking for an opportunity now when you're not going to be finding this job? You're not going to be able to do this job for 8 months down the road. And you're already trying to find a job and you think they're going to wait for you. Like, there's a lot of like thoughts like that's probably not going to happen. But my husband is like, I can design the life that I want. And I can be honest and be true to myself. Like, he really wanted the Appalachian Trail. So he negotiated, got an opportunity that was willing to wait for him when he got off the trail. It's all set up, signed the contract and everything. And the other thing, I don't know if I told you all this, but so my husband and I had always talked about, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a place in Beaufort, South Carolina and somewhere in Indiana next to both of our families? Like, my husband's like, what if I could work in both places? Wouldn't that be so cool? But then the rational mind was like, why would anyone hire a dentist in South Carolina and Indiana? Why would they pay for you to come to South Carolina? Like, this makes no sense when they could just hire a dentist close by. Like, that's not, so the rational mind will do that. And that's not going to happen for you. That won't work for you. But stay in the dream of it. Be in that, oh, wouldn't it be cool if? So we stayed in that space. And my husband, we ended up going to all these different interviews. And one interview, he was like, oh, I don't even think I'm interested in this one yet. Do you want to just skip it? And I was like, no, like, let's just go and see. At the very least, you get some more data around what's being offered to you. This is something I teach as a career coach. I say that you want to have lots of options. You want to know what is out there. So when you're giving an offer, you want to know, is it a really good offer? Would someone offer you more? But you need data to make those decisions. So anyways, I was like, let's just go and collect the data. At the very least, you get to meet someone new. You never know what might come of it. So we go, and this guy only had a part-time role available. And my husband wanted, obviously, a full-time role. And he said, I don't have a full-time role, but I do know someone that you might want to talk to. And he's like, okay, cool. And he's like, the guy actually owns practices in both Indiana and South Carolina. And we're like, what? So my husband's ears perk up because we're in Indiana when we're talking to this guy. And he's like, South Carolina? And he's like, yeah, I guess he has practices in both locations and wants to expand in both specific states. And he's like, okay. So he talks to the guy and finds out that the guy's main practice is in Beaufort County, South Carolina. And so my husband throws out this idea of he's like, okay, so the one practice he was looking for someone was in the areas we were looking at in Indiana to take over that practice full time. And then my husband brought up this idea and he said, well, would you be interested in me coming also to Beaufort County, and kind of doing both, running this practice in Indiana, but then also having the opportunity to practice also in South Carolina and Beaufort County, because my wife and I really would like to have a place there too at some point. And he was like, yeah, because right now we outsource all of the main extensive kinds of surgeries. They outsource those. Well, my husband can do a lot of those things. So it would be in their interest to have him do those and set it up where they can keep that money in-house kind of thing. So, but remember, the rational mind would have been like, well, why would they take you when they could hire someone else? Blah, blah, blah. Well, in this situation, it would work well. But what are the odds, though, guys? What are the odds that somebody would have practices in both specific states in the exact counties we were looking at? What are the odds of that? And I feel like I tell you these stories because I want you to know that you're powerful. Your dreams matter. And we have to keep the faith that all things are possible for us. And it's even settling around things where people just don't even allow themselves to dream because they immediately say that wouldn't work out, or they don't even negotiate for a later start time so they can go on a wonderful trip with their family, or a flexible schedule because they're probably not going to agree to that. And they talk themselves out of it. And it's you get to design the life that you want. Yeah, it may require some difficult conversations that you may need to have that make you a little nervous, that stretch you. I'm about to have some of those conversations coming up and I've been having dreams about it. And I'm like, Ange, you always preach, do what makes you proud of how you show up, right? Act in a way that makes you proud of how you show up. Ask. Believe in yourself. Just put it out there. See what could come of it. Designing the life that you want is going to take courage, right? And that's why number one regret of the dying, I wish I would have had the courage to live a life true to myself, because that's what stops people from living life true to themselves, is the lack of courage. And I also think the lack of faith that it's possible. But maybe there's a part of you that believes it could be possible, but then that voice shoots it down, right? But the thing is, if you acted out in courage, if you chose faith over fear, courage over comfort, you did that, your life would be so different. I even think about some of the things on Facebook and things I don't share, opportunities I know could help people that I haven't shared with people because I'm afraid, they're going to be like, what are, just trying to sell me stuff. You know how people have this negative mindset about stuff, and it's I always think I don't want people to think I'm just trying to sell them something. And even as I say that, I'm like, well, I am. I kind of am. I am trying to sell you on you taking action on your behalf, on you intentionally designing your life. I'm trying to sell you on that. I want you to do that. I don't want you to have a life where you regret how you lived and you wish you would have shown up. And I want to show people that this life that I've created, today, I get to be here and I get to do this podcast and I have so much freedom in my life. I have so much opportunity. And why? Because I chose courage over comfort, and I keep doing it over and over again. That's why. And everybody can design the career that they want, the life that they want, and even if a job is posted a certain way, you can talk about shifting it around to honor your strengths more. As I was hiking, I was listening to one of our old episodes with Kristen Clark. It was a while back. one of the earlier episodes, we talked about strengths and like why it's so important to know your strengths, and how when you know your strengths, then you can advocate to have roles match your strengths, you know? Anyways, I just felt like I needed to share that. Whoa, this is already getting to be 25 minutes. Okay, I want to add a little bit more back to our point about this whole creating magic in your life. So if you go back to the quotes about energy, like you want to put out the energy you want to receive in your life. You want to be the person, the kind of person you would like to be around, right? So think about that. Like, can you add that magic, that element of surprise and awe to other people's lives so that you have more of that in your life? And the other thing to think about, if you want more of that because it feels so good, you got to stop trying to control everything. You want to know all the time what's going to happen. Like, let's say you're making a decision between two choices. Like, you wish so badly that you knew what would happen with each choice if you made that choice. And, it's like you have this control showing up. Let it go. Because it's so fun to be surprised, like, about life. And just, what if you trusted that things were always working out for you? That you couldn't make a bad decision because you'd always be directed back to things that served you. And everything is going to serve you in some way. Even something that sucks, it's probably a lesson that you need to hear and that you need to learn to help you be the person that you're supposed to be. What if you thought that way? What would be different for you? What decisions would you make then? What if you knew that you could design the life that you want and it just took some courage? What if you acted with more courage? What would you share with people? What would you say? What would you do differently? Your life would be different. I know that for sure, because there's things that are holding you back because you're afraid of what could happen, or you're afraid of what someone would think. And what I'm asking you to do is to release that. Create some magic in your life, in other people's lives. Let's see here. I wrote this down. You'll never miss the bus you're supposed to be on. I always say that. Like, if you're trying to figure out between two things what to do, and you're like, if I do this, then what if I miss out on this thing? I always say, like, if there's a bus coming to pick you up and like God's sending that bus, don't worry. That bus will drive directly to where you are. You ain't gonna miss the bus that you're supposed to be on. So trust the timing of things too. A lot of us want to control and want things to happen so much faster. And if it hasn't happened yet, it's because it's not the best time yet for you. If there's a right time for things, then what does that mean? There's a wrong time for things as well, So trust that. Trust that process. I wrote this down. The reason you're stressed out is because you keep thinking it's all on you. It's not. Stop trying to control things and trust the process. I'm saying that again. A lot of us have so much stress in our lives because we feel like we need to do something to make it happen and be a certain way, and it's all on us. But it's not all on you. And that's so relieving to hear that. Like, even up on that mountain, like, it wasn't all on me to get popcorners. Like, yeah, I thought about the popcorners. I would have to grab them from the person and thank them. But somehow this magic showed up in my life to deliver me these popcorners. This guy shows up with a whole box of popcorners. What? And this kind of reminds me too of, like, I feel like God wants us to make our desires known. You make it known. This is why I'm all about, like, having a vision for your life. It's like this prayer list. Like, this would be so cool if this could happen, but don't be attached. Just be like, here, Santa, here's my list. But if you want to give me something better, I'll take it. Okay. Like, it's kind of like that prayer, praying for this or something better. And anyways, that's what that popcorner story on the mountain reminded me of, is that, like, it's like I thought about this. I, in a sense, put it out there, prayed about it or whatever. And then it gets delivered in a way I couldn't even imagine. It felt so much better. Like, I'm glad I didn't know how I was going to get those popcorners. It could have been a lame story. Like, I walked in the grocery store and there was some popcorners hanging on the shelf. But instead it was like, these people showed up and they just brought a huge box of popcorners with them, And if I would have known how, like, the opportunity would come from my husband where he gets to practice. I forgot to even say, guys, the other thing that was so cool about his work opportunity is he used to always say, wouldn't it be so cool if I could be mentored by, like, an awesome person? Like, he always was envious of people who had, like, parents that were also dentists, because he was like, it'd be just so cool to be mentored by someone directly. that like really knew what they were doing. And for him, he really wanted to be mentored by someone that was really skilled in surgery. Well, the opportunity that he got in Indiana is with a guy who is highly skilled in surgery that people pay thousands of dollars to be in the same room with for a weekend. This dude is a true mentor and teacher at heart, but is also his new mentor, his new one-on-one mentor that's training him before he retires. What a blessing. Only God does that kind of stuff. But it didn't just like pop out of nowhere. We started with a vision. It started with like the popcorner started with me thinking about popcorners and being like, wouldn't it be cool if I had popcorners? And like my husband saying, wouldn't it be cool if I had a mentor, like this kind of mentor? Wouldn't it be so cool if I could have a home in two of my favorite places in the U.S. by my family, honoring those values, and in Beaufort, South Carolina? Wouldn't that be cool? And I'm asking you, I guess, to think about magic in your life. Think about how you can generate that kind of magic feeling for other people, surprising them, bringing joy to them, lifting up their spirits, because that will come back to you. I'm asking you to do that. And I'm also asking you to think about, wouldn't it be cool if, fill in the blank for me. Wouldn't it be cool if what happened in your life? Put it out there, release it, see what happens. All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this episode, this bonus episode, and that you have an awesome week. Oh, I forgot to say, if you are interested in joining my book club coming up, where we go through the 6 weeks to happy book, we work on rewiring your brain with me and Jen Legra for 7 weeks. The link will be in the show notes, bit.ly/cheers to happy. You need to sign up by the end of March. For sure, so we can figure out who all is going to be in the group. It's totally worth it, and you get to hang out with us. It's going to be fun. Also, please leave a review if you have not done so, and have an awesome day. Talk to you soon. Bye.